Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us. I'm calling this meeting to order. This is the El Laredo Urban Transportation Study Committee, otherwise known as the Metropolitan Planning Organization Policy Committee. Today's April the 15th, 2019, and it's 1:39 p.m. We're meeting at the 1110 Houston Street, otherwise City Council Chambers. Yes, could we have roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Mayor Pete Science,
Present.
Webb County Judge Tano E. Tijerina,
Present.
Councilmember Norma Nelly Vielma, Councilmember Dr. Marte Martinez, Councilmember George Algeld, County Commissioner Jesse Gonzalez,
Present.
County Commissioner John Gala, and TxDOT District Engineer David M. Salazar Jr.
Present.
For the record, you do have a quorum, sir.
We have a
Motion
quorum.
to excuse those that are absent.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion to excuse as presented, seconded, discussion. None heard, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against say no, motion carries unanimously. We have, the next item is citizens' comments. Anyone willing to speak, please sign up and, or just come forward. You have 3 minutes per speaker. We do have someone that signed up already. Alec Martinez with the City of Laredo Traffic. Mr. Martinez, welcome.
All right, good afternoon. Vice President of the City of Laredo. In January, the City of Laredo passed a Vision Zero ordinance, which will amend and change a lot of the current modus operandi for how we conduct and think about traffic safety. There are a few other cities in the United States that have passed. We're the most recent one. And the third in Texas, San Antonio, and Austin have done it. Houston is thinking about it, but we're definitely forging a path very much in that sense. In any case, at the end of May, May 22nd, from 9 to 11, we're going to be having a Vision Zero Summit. FHWA is going to be coming down to present. They've adopted it nationwide as well on what that'll mean for us. The chiefs of PD, the chiefs of fire will be there as well. And we want to have a cross-collaborative effort with TxDOT, and we'd love to have the MPO there also. So this is a formal invitation to you guys. We hope that you'll join us there. Again, May 22nd. 9 to 11 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, sir. Our next item is approval of the minutes for the meeting held on March 18th, 2019, which says,
So moved, there's no amendment?
No, sir.
No.
there's a
I'm
motion.
sorry.
There's a motion, a second by Commissioner Gonzalez. Discussion, none heard, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, none heard, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. The next item is 4B, receive public testimony and approve resolution number MPO 2019-03, adopting the proposed amendments of the 2019-2022 Transportation Improvement Program, which is otherwise known as a TIP.
Move to open up the public hearing?
There's a motion to open up the public hearing. Is there a second? Second. There's a second. Discussion. None heard. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against say no. None heard, motion carries unanimously. We have 9 sub portions of it. Would you take each one accordingly?
Sure. This is our 4-year transportation plan. It describes all the projects that we foresee going to construction within the next 4 years. The amendments that you have before you include 9 separate changes. The first change, and this item did come before you at the last meeting, at which time there was a 10-day public review and comment period initiated. We have received no comments through the internet or any other sources, and at this point, the item is before you for final approval and adoption of these changes. Those changes, as I mentioned, will include the addition of the construction of the 3rd lane on I-35 at the intersection of Loop 20 and I-35. The next project to be added will be the widening of I-69 West. That's from the bridge to I-35.
Excuse me real quick,
Sure.
if you don't mind, Chair.
Yes, go ahead, please.
The only question I have is, you just made a comment that we opened it up the last MPO.
Yeah, for a public
So the
review and
motion that
comment
was
period.
just made right now was moved to open up public hearing. So in reality, it's already been open.
The public comment period was open, but there's a public hearing right now where you can hear during this meeting.
And if you may, I have basically the same question because it's a
Yes.
10-day comment period,
Which closed.
which closed. So
Mm-hmm.
now, if you make comments today, are they acceptable even though it's, cause it asks for public
If-
testimony?
The bylaws stipulate that if you receive comments after the public comment period that could not have reasonably been foreseen, then, and there's substantial or substantive changes, like you're gonna add another project, or, the funding changes more than $1.5 million in federal funds, then you would need to open it for an additional 10 days. So you could approve it conditional to receiving no future comments within that 10 days.
But once again, we've already we've opened it, so I guess in reality, we should be closing it if there's no
Well,
public
but
comment.
that one closed, the comment period already closed. We initiated a
It
10-day
asked for
public comment
public
period
testimony today.
at the previous meeting.
And that was the question, if the
I'm
public
not ready.
testimony today could have any influence on this.
And I think the answer is yes, if it's
Yeah, if
substantive,
we-
if it's something very material.
It was just
yeah.
a question.
Yeah, it's just,
And then maybe a moot point, I don't see people coming in to speak, you know, we may have.
Like, could you add a project today?
Yeah, we could add a project today, however, we would have to, with the.
Extend the period?
Yeah, we would have to extend the comment period by another 10
Very
days.
good.
I don't have any.
yeah, we're good.
The next project that is proposed for addition is the widening of 1472. That's to construct a right turn lane, and that's from Big Bend Boulevard to Killam Industrial. Let's see. The other project, the next project to be added is the transit project. That's the one that was approved through the TAP program, where they're gonna be rehabbing and reconstructing 17 bus stops around town. The next projects listed are revisions. They're revising the construction date from 2019 to 2020 of the pedestrian trail at Chacuan Creek. Again, and the realignment of Flecha and Las Cruces. They're changing the construction date from fiscal year 2019 to 2020. The construction of the overpass at Colton is also being proposed for amendment to change the construction date from 2019 to 2020. The hike and bike trail at Ana to the LCC camp, or the LC campus, pardon me, is also being proposed for a construction moving date from 2019 to 2020. And then the final revision is kind of some housekeeping. I don't know if you recall, at some previous meetings, the policy committee adopted safety, bridge, and pavement performance targets. Those were set up by TxDOT, and we've adopted those to support their targets. We're just simply putting them in our document.
Mayor, may I?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Before we close this, Commissioner Gonzalez and I had been speaking, and I believe, is there a way we could put those, I know we spoke about it in the last MPO meeting about those lights, remember? I believe, who was speaking about it? Somebody from TxDOT was talking about that we needed to pay for the lights. As far, which road was it, Commissioner Gonzalez?
Cuatro Vientos.
Cuatro Vientos. Cuatro Vientos Road. Is there any way we could add that to this particular item? The tip?
Well, do we have a good description of the project? I mean, do we have sort of limits,
Mr. McGee
funding,
spoke
funding
about that, no?
sources? 'Cause it has,
Mr. McGee's the one that spoke about that,
yeah,
correct?
it has to have like a, if it goes into here, it's that funding
He said it wasn't warranted, no?
is identified, it's gonna be allocated
Just for the record.
to the project.
Commissioner, Dr. Martha Martinez is now with us. Could text it, maybe, and I see you, David.
I think
McKenna.
there's a
Problem.
presentation towards the end of these, agenda items that we're gonna be discussing that lighting itself today. But again, Ms. Vanessa, she's correct, we'll have to look at funding sources, projects, and if we're willing to move this forward. Will it be added today? I don't think that we could do that right now, correct?
Yeah, well, I mean, if we had all the information necessary, which would be a scope, when is it going to construction, what is the funding source?
Well, let me
how
ask you, can
much?
we add it later on?
Why don't
Oh,
we-
yeah, this-
Yeah, we
these-
can add it later on. Why don't we go through the presentation that we have scheduled today?
TxDOT allows for quarterly revisions,
I thought all
so
it was-
every 3 months.
If I may, I thought all it was a contract, cause the city was gonna have to pay.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not sure.
Mr. McGee,
Yeah.
Mr. McGee, would you please?
But the key is identifying funds that,
Yeah, we need to have the funding source.
It really is, I'm just, it's the city.
Well, I don't know if
Mr.
it's through the
McGee.
city limits.
Hi, welcome, sir.
For the record, Danny McGee, Director of Traffic Operations for TxDOT. TxDOT and the City of Laredo have a contract. It's called a Municipal Maintenance Agreement. Per that agreement, the city is solely responsible for installing, designing, maintaining, and operating traffic lights that are on the state system inside the city limits. So in certain circumstances, we have a new project, sometimes we'll install those traffic signals, but when it's a road that's already there, it's a city responsibility to construct it, fund it.
So the MPO could not help in any regards on that?
Where the city gets the money from, it doesn't really concern us as long as the city constructs it. Does that make sense? In other words, if they,
So then it would
sometimes private
behoove the
developers.
city to put this on the
Sorry?
tip. It would behoove the city to put this on the tip then.
I think so, yeah, because sometimes they'll get the money from a private developer. As long as the city is the one that actually constructing it, we're okay with it. It doesn't matter to us where the money comes from.
And from my
If I
end.
may, sorry.
Yes, go ahead, please. Maybe we can
From
put it on
what
the
I,
next
what I
agenda.
recall, they were gonna look at the number of accidents, the time of day that this happens, if it's related to the lack of lighting or signaling, and then decide whether or not it was a priority for Texas.
Yes, I do have a presentation prepared, when the reg get called up, concerning the accidents that were happening during nighttime hours. It does not address putting the traffic signal. We did a lot of work when the Cuatro Vientos was opened back in 2012 to put those acceleration, deceleration lanes. And you'll see the numbers that the crash rate has gone down substantially every year because of that. So I'll address those things now or there as you want me to.
Okay,
Just
keep
really
in mind,
quick, just for inclusion into the TIP, it has to be either federal funded or regionally significant. So it's not just a regular random city project with, funded with city funds. It would need to have some sort of federal or state funding or regional significance.
and I know Cuatro Vientos is a big, busy area as well. Under the last appropriation, city council, 2 years ago, I was allotted, so many dollars, for major, construction. Maybe this is something that through my fund, we could, work something out.
Excuse me, so what would be the difference between like number 5, for the construction of a pedestrian trail at Chacon Creek?
And this is TAP funds.
There's my answer.
I did want to throw one caveat into the whole thing about traffic signals on Cuatro Vientos. Where the connections for the streets are, one of the reasons we didn't allow traffic signals at Lomas del Sur, for instance, is that we have a sight distance problem there. So that needs to be taken care of before even the traffic signal gets put in. As you're coming northbound, I don't know if you know it pretty well, you go over a little hill and the traffic signal will be right there where the hill is.
So the good news is that potentially that this could actually be on the agenda for the next time, is that correct?
Well, for city council to review and evaluate, yeah. Because he's saying basically it's
It's
the
a city
city's
responsibility,
responsibility.
and how they handle it is up to the city, but.
I think the key here, Vanessa said that it doesn't have to necessarily be entered into the TIP because there's no state or federal funds associated to it. Are we willing to work with the city to input something based on a project that's needed by the city or the funds that are available by the city? We can certainly do that, but I don't think it's gonna be on the TIP.
And I think we need to start addressing the issue that we have there in Lomas del Sur, because if we, the county and TxDOT work together to bring the realignment from Wormser to Lomas del Sur, that's gonna be important, the important key that we have that traffic signal, at least on that location, because it's gonna be creating a lot of traffic back and
Yeah,
forth.
and like I said, I know that with this may be the wrong forum for it, but there's a lot of things to think about when you put traffic signals. Right now, you're thinking about getting cars out, but when you put traffic signals, you introduce a whole different kind of accidents. And the speed limit out there is 65, and people are driving 75, 80 miles an hour. So
Well, nevertheless, when that road was created, it was created for a purpose, either to have traffic signals or overpasses, but
Right.
that road is not completely up to date. We need to make sure we do it one way or another, but traffic has to flow, at the same time when you're coming from east to west or west to east, because right now it's just north to south. So
No, well-
that road itself, it needs to be,
And Mr. Gonzalez, and we're quite aware of that, and you can look at Loop 20, the same scenario. It wasn't created to have those traffic signals out there. The main one's at the airport. That's a big issue for us right now. It does create an issue when you have traffic backed up at 5 o'clock. It's the same thing with Cuatro Vientos. We built what we could at that time. We're currently looking at it, we're moving forward, and we are looking at designing and coming in and tying it all the way to 83. Unfortunately, we're not quite there yet, but we're.
What's the timeline that we're seeing where we'll be there? Because, again, you know, South Laredo is, it's one of the biggest areas that's growing right now, and traffic issue is always gonna be an issue there. Now, whenever that, I think Lomas will be the main intersection of all of them, I think. That's the one that has the 4 lanes or 5 lanes with the turning lane. And if we do that realignment, again, you know, we gotta be prepared for what we're dealing with right now, not the future, but what we have right now as an issue.
Well, for the right now, in my opinion, it's working much better the way it is than putting traffic signals. You're gonna, right now, we have a running speed of 65 miles an hour. The minute you put traffic signals, you're gonna start going down 30, 40 miles an hour. And the accidents will increase, the different kinds of accidents. Right now, you come out of Lomas del Sur, you take a right, you go down maybe half a mile, make a U-turn. We did that for every major intersection. Even Cerrito Lindo, we were getting complaints that they had to go too far down, cross a bridge. We even put a temporary one so they could turn around a lot faster. So that has cut down.
Though it's further than half a mile,
Which one?
Lomas del Sur.
No, some of them are like half a mile from Cerrito Lindo. That's it. Some of the other ones, every morning I go down from where I work, where I live, go down to Lomas del Sur to make a U-turn. But it's no different from major town. You know, nobody gets a connection every street. You make it right turn, sometimes it's a mile, but you make a right, you don't have to wait for a traffic signal.
What's gonna be the recommendation if we do that realignment project, Wormser and Lomas del Sur?
I'm not familiar with that project, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's something that came up last month, so we'll be looking at the tie-in and how we're gonna handle that, but it's just something that came up and we don't have any information at this time.
Like I said, I'm not, trying to go from one way or the other. I'm just bringing up the issues that one solution presents versus another.
No, I appreciate it, Mr. McGee, thank you.
Yeah,
Mayor, if I
Commissioner
may?
Gayla? Yeah.
Really for David, I guess, you know, when they built that Cuatro Vientos, I was totally against the limited access, where with no frontage roads. I think you've seen the problems that it created over there. Plus you lost the economic development, you know, building along those frontage roads. Can we look to maybe start frontage roads going south on the parts that's not developed?
I think what we're doing right now is that I believe the right of way is wide enough where we thought ahead of ourselves and we widen out the right of way so we could do future expansion. So that was a key for us, getting that right of way so we can expand in the future. Are we looking at it? Yes, we are looking at it. We're looking at different options. Are they funded right now? No, they're not. But
No, at least as long as we secure the right of way to be able to have those frontage roads to create that economic development. And really, because it puts the burden on the developers to put that internal, major thoroughfare in there, which doesn't always connect, doesn't always happen. And it really makes it hard on traffic. And I think, the commissioner and all those that represent the South see it every day.
So we're fully aware of that. We've seen the development and we'll support anything that the MPO decides to move forward with, but we are certainly looking at it.
And you can look for the MPO to support you in that effort.
Thank you, Mayor.
If I may, I have a question.
One road that allows access to that would help. Because right now there are none. So it doesn't matter which road you choose, but at least have one soon that allows access more directly.
Be beyond the Cuatro Vientos.
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%.
Yes, Pam?
I just had a question. Most of the amendments is postponing the date from 2019 to 2020. Did we not get funding for 2019?
No, there was funding, however, the projects just weren't ready to go to construction in 2019, so that's why they have to move to 2020.
And do we have like internal deadlines so that this doesn't happen to us come in 2020?
I guess we could talk to the project managers for each of these projects. It looks like right-of-way is an issue, on most of these projects. Colton, I know there was some right-of-way issues. I don't know if Ramon is here. Let's see. The hike and bike trail, I think they also had some right-of-way issues with that one as well. So, yeah, I think those are the major issues with most of those projects that are causing the delay.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to know if there's a process in place for this body to hear, okay, the deadline is X month and we haven't heard anything, so that we are aware of it beforehand and try to rush it so we can meet deadlines and we don't lose funding a whole year again.
No, we don't have like an item status of ongoing projects with regard to these. I know TechStot has an item on the agenda, but not on the, sort of the city, these are the sort of the city projects. The only time that they would come up is when we need to move them. And this is about when you're hearing, you know, we're not gonna make those construction deadlines or initiate the construction. So this is when this would come before this body.
Okay. So procedurally, I'm not sure, Mayor, if it's a hearing, if I can make a motion to establish such a process, or we could put it on the next agenda so that we can have internal deadlines and make sure that we.
Not any other, not any other thing.
Yeah, maybe next
Next
go
time,
around,
we can
yeah.
add it to the agenda.
Could you put that as an
Sort of
agenda?
a
item,
status on those
No,
projects?
Yeah, status on projects, yeah. Periodically, you have to see 2-3 months, at least once a quarter, you know, bring them up and see where we stand.
Okay,
And especially the projects here in the tip, which are immediate, or somewhat immediate. Yeah, and again, this is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak for or against? For or against?
Move
Or
to
against?
close the public hearing and adopt the proposed amendments into the tip.
Second.
Yeah, there's a motion as presented and seconded by Judge Tijerina. Discussion. None heard. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against? None heard. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
And, move to open public testimony on item C.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second by Dr. Martinez. Discussion. None heard. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against? None heard. Motion carries unanimously. Again, this is a public hearing, and it has,
Same one.
the same ones. Yes, the same sub-portions there. And again, it's a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak for or against? For or against? For or against?
Move to close the public testimony and approve the amendments to the MTP.
Second.
There's a motion as presented, seconded. Discussion. None heard. All those in favor say aye. All those against? None heard. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. This takes us all the way to D. Presentation by Susan Chavez from TechStot on the National Highway System with discussion and possible action. Hi, welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. My name is Susan Chavez. I'm with TxDOT Transportation Planning and Programming Division. And this is, I'm going to introduce a consultant that's been working with me. This is Travis Norton with Jacobs.
How many years?
For the past year or so, we've been looking at the national highway system throughout the state, really just wanting to do some cleanup on the network. The national highway system was established in the 90s, and MAP 21 in 2012 added a lot of principal arterials to the network in one fell swoop. We really haven't done an overall assessment of it all to make sure those were the right roads that really rise to the level of national highway system criteria. They were just sort of gathered in and dumped onto the system. So we're taking this opportunity to do that throughout the state. We've met with all the MPOs in the state, maybe except for 2. We're almost there. But we have met with Vanessa, and today we held a workshop with your TAC to talk about the NHS in the Laredo MPO area. So I'm going to have Travis just give some background about what the NHS is, and then I would like to go through a list of the roads that we looked at for possible changes.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, if I could give just a tiny bit of preface to this. What's happening is that TxDOT and Federal Highways is coming to us to review the roads on our current network that are included in the National Highway System. And they've developed a bunch of criteria by which they've shown, okay, these meet the criteria for inclusion, and maybe these not so much. We've met with the technical committee, and they've developed some recommendations for if we're gonna either add more roads, if we're gonna remove roads from the National Highway System. And at this time, there's no need for action on part of the policy committee. What we wanted to do is introduce it to you so that you all have a good idea of what's happening. And then at a subsequent meeting, probably the next MPO meeting, we'd come before you with a resolution, because that's what Federal Highways and TxDOT is requiring of us, a resolution from the policy committee, either adopting the proposed recommendations depending on you know, this body's either concurrence with the recommendations or whatever you all decide. Okay, so that's kind of what's
Yeah, one
happening.
point of consideration too, the state of Texas is in the process of creating a border master freight plan. You're aware of that, and just as long as we stay very close to that.
Sure, understand.
Okay, and that's something that you'll be paying close attention to, correct?
Yes, yes. I coordinate with Caroline Mays quite a bit, so I
Okay,
know
oh,
she's.
wonderful, okay, okay, great, okay then, please proceed, thank you.
Thanks. Travis Norton from Jacobs. So I'm just going to give a quick background on the National Highway System and then a high-level summary of our review. As Susan mentioned, this is the first effort to review the system statewide since it was created in 1995. And the National Highway System exists to bring a focus on the roads that are the most important for long-distance mobility, so movement of people and goods. Being on the National Highway System makes a roadway eligible for certain federal funding. Other roads can be eligible for federal funding, but NHS designation makes a road eligible for the highest standard of federal funds. On NHS facilities, you also have to track performance measures. So these performance measures that y'all have been discussing are for the National Highway System. And then projects on the National Highway System have to meet federal design standards. So that's the highest standard for roadway design. A little bit of background on the NHS in Laredo. There are 115 centerline miles. So that's 12% of all the miles in the MPO area. Those 12% of miles carry 2 million daily vehicle miles traveled. So that's 55% of all travel in the MPO area. And then that also carries 81% of all truck VMT. So 81% of all truck travel in the MPO area occurs on the National Highway System. So when trying to see what should and shouldn't be on that network, we tried to use as much data as possible in our initial review before we brought the suggestions to the MPO for their consideration. And we're also trying to align with the federal process for modifying the National Highway System, which involves lots of concurrence from the MPO. You can see here on the slides the official definition of the National Highway System that FHWA has put together. So for a road to be on the NHS, it needs to be functionally classified as a principal arterial. It needs to interconnect on both ends, so it can't stub out into nothing. It needs to connect to the National Highway System continuously. And then it also needs to provide access to major activity centers, ports, airports, border crossings. So these are the roads that FHWA thinks need to get the highest consideration for major funding and improvement.
Yeah, let me ask you this, you said that you had to connect on both ends, obviously here at the border it ends or begins.
So that's the exception, so
Okay,
it either needs to interconnect or it needs to end at the border or, you're right, it can't,
Okay.
we don't need another road system. Okay. So I think now we'll present the consensus that we came with in our meeting with the TAC today, and
So we did go through several roadways with them. I'm just going to let you know of the ones where we had some modifications. And so there were 6 roads that were proposed to be added to the NHS. And should I go through each one, Vanessa?
Sure.
Okay. So
Proposed by whom?
by your TAC.
The technical committee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. And so the first one is Business 59 from I-35 to US 59. I think we're going to try to pull up a map
I'm going to
for
try
you.
and show you, no, you already know these roads.
Should I just go? And it really is just extending the blue lines are the NHS routes currently. So it's really, and the green line is the one we're looking at right now. So it's really just extending it and connecting I-35 to the rest of US 59 to make that a continuous NHS route. The next one is Mangana-Hine Road. And we looked at this one in conjunction with Loop 20 down south. So it's that bottom yellow line on your screen. And then it would also connect to Loop 20, which was also proposed to be added to the NHS.
So that's Cuatro Vientos? Yeah.
Yes.
And then the next one that was proposed to be added was Shiloh Road, or Shiloh Drive, sorry. from I-35 to Loop 20, connecting those two.
Yeah, let the record reflect that we have George Hoggett, not with, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. And the next one to be added was Salido Lindo Boulevard. And that's between US 83 and Loop 20, so again, connecting those two. And then the final one to be added was Del Mar Boulevard, and that's between I-35 and US 59. And in addition to these additions, there were several principal arterials, not on the NHS, but that we had proposed to downgrade to minor arterials. And minor arterials are still eligible for federal funding, so there wouldn't be a real issue there, but it's a little cleaner when you're looking at the national highway system.
Yeah, let me ask you this, I don't see anything, you know, the heaviest concentration currently is the Mines Road area. Do we see any of those connections there to 35?
So for instance, Shiloh extending it further or something along those lines, because that's where we see the heaviest traffic is in those particular areas.
So extending Shiloh further, is that what I'm not?
Yeah, all the way to the to Mines Road, if you will.
Yeah, well, yeah, but even further north, I
And
think.
even further north, yes, that's right.
Yeah, I know we have Baesillo, we have the proposed Achar.
I think it's current roads. It's
Oh, okay.
It's current roads.
Oh, yes, these are.
Well, we have the other one too, what's it called, the one that you all are working on, David, Las Tiendas?
3338, FM 3338. I think that's outside the MPO.
That's correct. Yeah, anything that we can alleviate traffic from the Mines Road, I think is helpful, to at least have it programmed. And I think George could speak to that too.
Yes, so I guess we touched base a while back, and maybe someone from TechStop might be able to chime in, but I know we passed a resolution to reclassify Farm to Market 1472, otherwise known as Mines Road, into a highway. Is that correct? Or how did that come across? What was our resolution? Can anyone speak to that?
Yes, I'm Roberto Rodriguez with TechStop. Yeah, we had a resolution for FM 3338, Las Tiendas Road, going from a minor rural arterial to a major arterial. That was about 3 months ago.
That was
FM
3338?
FM 3338, yes.
But not 1472?
No, 1472 is already, I want to say it's a collector.
But why would you leave it classified as a farm to market when clearly it's the hub of the second biggest port in the Western Hemisphere?
Well, the reclassification that we're talking on right now is not from interstate to US highway or FM highway. It's the federal classification that they.
Well, let's put an agenda item next time around, we come back on that one, but I guess my point being, and you can see just how much of an afterthought 1470, a farm to market 1472 is to TxDOT. But as it relates to, I guess, your wheelhouse, some sort of meaningful funding scheme that would enhance the corridor, the trade corridor, if you will, and its connectivity to the rest of, I-69 and the world, frankly, would be, I think, beneficial to the local economy, state economy, and the national economy, because so much goods and trade, so much trade comes through there.
Mines Road is on the national highway system, correct? I see the blue line on Mines Road. Is that Mines Road right up there?
Is it called something?
Yes, it is.
So it's currently already
So it's
identified.
not, so are we, has it been, but we still call it farm to market?
I think
1472?
there's a misconception,
Yeah.
Councilman Algen, as far as not labeling as an interstate, it's a national highway system that allows for essentially roads like Shiloh to maybe in the future apply for federal funds. It's not necessary that we're renaming it an interstate highway.
And to my point, that's why I think Shiloh is the one that you could extend all the way to Farm to Market 1472, out of the ones that you put on here.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And is there room for Las Tiendas also? Yeah, anything that we can do on the Mines Road, I think would be very helpful.
I'm
David,
not
is that
sure
something
Well,
that?
Shiloh turns to Las Cruces, right?
Las Cruces.
But it's just existing roads, no?
Yeah, it's just existing roads.
Yeah.
Right,
It
it's
is
gotta
just
be an existing
existing
road and not
roads.
future roadways.
Okay, Las Tiendas is very much an existing road.
Las Tiendas, would,
3338.
for inclusion, it would need to meet sort of this criteria that they mentioned, meaning it has to connect to, sort of, on-system facilities. It can't have.
Columbia Road,
255 is not on system?
255,
Further up?
Ms.
me
Chavez,
see.
Ms. Chavez, does it have to be within the boundary of the MPO?
Yes, it does.
It does, right? Correct?
Right now, we're also coordinating with the district. We were coordinating with Melissa on the area outside the MPO, but I don't think we identified very many roads for you guys
so
to.
Las Tiendas is MPO? I
Oh,
thought
it
so.
is. But what's the MPO district then? Where are the boundaries? I thought 255 was always in the boundary. There's 255.
Is it the yellow?
I don't think I have, no, that's the city boundaries. I don't
Oh,
think I have,
the top, the highest line up there on the left is the,
I don't think I have.
that's 255.
Yeah, right there is Las Tiendas, yeah.
And
Right
that's,
there, I
again,
think.
that's right there, the little skinny line.
Yeah, the little skinny line, to the south or west of that.
Yellow line right there.
Right there.
That, yeah. So where are the MPO
I'd
boundaries?
have to check. I don't have it with me.
It's not loading up on our map right now. Sorry, apologize.
So
It may
anyway,
have been outside the
keep that
boundary.
in mind too, I think that's,
Should we motion to try to keep that in mind?
Can we, in the future, can we
To
alter the
include-
boundaries of the MPO?
Yes, we
make it the
can.
whole Webb
However, it
County?
has to be done through the governor's office, and it has to be anything that's gonna develop within the next 20 years. So there's sort of a process involved, but yes, they do change.
yeah, all of this.
The boundaries do change.
Yeah, Webb
Yeah,
County.
Chad, you know,
Webb County will be developed by that.
And to include also,
That's his drive.
you know, outlying
sorry, so-
cities as well. Because if you look what like the Valley's just done recently with their MPO, they consolidated the vast majority of the Valley into one single MPO, which now throws them into another funding bracket.
Bigger.
And so small fries like us are fighting over breadcrumbs. And so if we were to reach, you know, grown-up status, we might be able to get meaningful funding. But
Right.
anyway.
Anyway, so, yeah, and your point well taken, Las Tiendas, can we incorporate that? Is it a matter of just making it a blue line there?
As long as it's within the MPO, would that be the motion?
If it's in the MPO boundary, we can look at it for you guys. I mean, it, like Vanessa said, there's a criteria that it really needs to rise to in order to be considered for NHS. I'm not sure what it's functionally classified as right now. It may not be a principal arterial.
Well,
It needs to be a
it
principal
could be.
arterial.
It's a classification 6 on the state highway system.
It's a collector, so it wouldn't be eligible
Well, it wouldn't be eligible?
for the national highway system, no.
Even with Lomas.
Have to upgrade
would
it to
fall
a principal
into-
arterial.
No,
No?
unfortunately, I don't think because of the traffic it has, it wouldn't fall into it.
So you don't think it'll make it?
Not Las, Lomas del
Las
Sur, no.
Tiendas?
No, Las Tiendas, no, it's a classification 6 on the state highway system. We are currently trying to work to upgrade.
Would it, the criteria would include, and this is what the recommendations were made on, the criteria include, does it serve major activity centers? Does it serve long-distance travel?
Yes.
Does it link the surrounding region to the urban core?
Sure.
Does it does it have limited access to the surrounding land uses, meaning does it have a ton of driveways?
Yeah.
And, does it link to other major regional facilities?
Yeah,
It has to have on both sides. So those are the criteria.
Yes.
For
It's all
it
of
to
those.
be included on the national highway system.
we can certainly look at it, especially when we're trying to reclassify this classification 5, and then we can come back, or we can get back to Ms. Chavez.
Yeah, and it's,
Take a look at it.
and it's for future funding, you know, obviously it's.
It just puts it on the table for eligibility of future funds once we get on the highway system. That's all it is. It's not guaranteed.
It's not guaranteed.
that we're
Still
gonna-
has to
that's fine.
compete with all the other projects.
Right.
Well, that's, all we need is just a.
It opens.
And the scope of Ms. Chavez's introduction was basically to remove some highways that have become, not obsolete, but less heavily traveled versus a Shiloh that's been more heavily traveled and getting those changes. I think there were 6 you were gonna upgrade, correct?
There were 6 to add. And I don't believe we've identified any to remove.
Oh, great, great.
So, and then
It's a win-win.
there are some sections of principal arterials and some principal arterials that we discussed downgrading to a minor arterial, just because of the way it's functioning. So,
did you want us to go through those as well? The
Yeah.
downgrades, or are we fine?
No, yeah, as many as we can classify or upgrade or whatever, it's future funding. I mean, yeah, as many roads that we can qualify would be better for us.
Let's go ahead and have them go through the downgrades, because if it's listed on the resolution, I don't want it to be a surprise, you know?
Yeah, let me ask you this, if we're talking Santa Maria, extending these roads.
Santa Maria currently is not, the majority of it is not listed as on the national highway system or as a principal arterial. There's a tiny section that right now we're recommending for downgrading to minor arterial.
A section of Santa Maria?
Yes. Can you point it out?
To clarify, we're not removing anything, we're just changing the classification.
Yeah, it's not,
They're gonna
it's
stay on the
not on the
system.
national highway system currently.
Reclassify.
Okay.
And what does that mean to reclassify or downgrade or whatever the nomenclature is? What does that mean as it relates to Santa Maria?
I mean, it's just reclassifying it as a minor arterial. I don't,
Yeah, what it is, we're required to federally functionally classify our roads. And federal functional classification is different than the thoroughfare classification. Thoroughfare, the comp plan and thoroughfare plan, that identifies how we want the roads to work 20 years from now. So, but these federal functional classifications are based on how is the road working today. So right now, we have a tiny portion of Santa Maria that has been designated or classified as principal arterial, but the rest of it is a minor arterial. In discussing it, the technical committee thought that it acted more like a minor arterial, so that's why they're recommending.
The whole of Santa Maria acts
Yeah.
as a minor arterial? Or
Right now-
just that highlighted section there?
Right now, the green section is currently designated as a minor arterial, and the red
No, no,
section.
no, no. I'm sorry, am I looking at the right thing?
Well, that's the river
The
road.
green is the river.
Can you point out Santa Maria, please?
Aha.
There you go. I'm
this
sorry.
is the entire functional classification of your entire,
I'm sorry, that's why you didn't see the green, because I remembered in the slide, sorry. There's the green. So you see the red, that portion, can you point to it? That red section of Santa Maria is right now, it's classified as principal arterial. And then the green section below it is all classified as minor arterial.
Right.
So in discussing it with the technical committee recommended the reclassifying that red portion to minor arterial, so it's all,
But
would
there's
all
so
be
many
green.
trucks that still drive through there on a daily basis. If you had a overflight, Google overflight image, you'd see all the warehouses. I mean, it's a big trade hub, and then to the mayor's point, if you look at the parallel to Santa Maria is a green line that runs parallel to the river. The Ana truck route, I think is the name it's called. That has a lot of 18-wheeler traffic on it
Majority.
as well. It's a designated truck route, as a matter of fact. I'm not sure why that one's there. I would see that one should probably be upgraded, in my estimation.
All the way to the flyover, no?
All the way to the flyover. And that green line from Ana along the rail line to the flyover, that's a myth. That doesn't really exist, I don't think. I mean, I've been out there numerous times. You can't drive to the flyover. It'd be great if y'all want to make that happen. I think it's a smashing good idea.
Well, you can't south.
You know, you hit those warehouses there.
Oh, yeah, I mean, you have to get up on the,
I mean, you hit the storage, I'm sorry.
yeah,
And you'd have to go around, come up, get on, come over.
yeah.
So what is that green, why the green line from the Ana truck route to the flyover on Mines Road?
Well, it doesn't go quite that far north. You got where the,
on the
where the
statewide
boat
planning
place
map,
is there and the,
that's where it is,
On-
on the statewide planning map.
35, yeah,
no, it's,
that's the boat place right there.
no, it's on.
Well, let me ask you, can you all come back to us and consider all these points that we're
Yeah.
enumerating?
That's all we're here.
Or do you have a deadline, or?
We do, we have a schedule, of course, right?
And that's why I'm sort of taking notes, so that I can include your recommendations into the resolution. From what I heard is Las Tiendas, if it does meet, that having that as, adding that to the national highway system.
Yeah.
It sounds like, if I'm hearing correctly, Santa Maria, it sounds like you wanna classify it as a principal arterial.
Yeah,
No,
Okay.
keep it classified.
Keep it.
yeah, keep it classified as a major, and
Is the
then-
whole thing or just
No,
the
no,
red
just the way you,
section?
just the
Just
red,
the way
like
you
it's
have
there.
Just the red?
Because after you get to that point, all the truck traffic does stop. And
Right.
it becomes more of a minor arterial. at
But
that
then
point.
going west on that green line, that should be upgraded. I mean, the port's only gotten bigger and busier over the years. That green line,
Going on, Anna.
the Ana truck route should be upgraded, all the way to the Jefferson Street, water treatment plant.
Oh, and
Okay.
below, I think, even to the outlet shops, no?
And then Carlton Road to
So
Up and
Anna,
out, don't
let me get this, you want to have that upgraded to a principal arterial?
That's what I'm suggesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
but all the way to
We're
the river,
suggesting-
let it drop all the way to.
but I'm saying all the way to the flat, we're here, bridge.
Oh, take it all the way around to the
Yeah.
flyover? Oh,
That
yeah, because
bridge-
then we get
that bridge
downtown,
too.
and we come through all those industrial areas,
Mhm.
downtown, and then all the way.
Yeah, that's what I was talking, not that flat, the one over here,
Principal
bridge two.
arterial
Gotcha.
From
If
the
you-
fly?
If you think about what that does, is we're trying to bypass, all that traffic there and make that the major arterial where we
Do
have
this
truck
Carlton
traffic
here, or do the
moving north and south.
friction?
Oh, yeah.
West Road, as opposed to
Yeah.
having them go through the city. And so if we're
This
we're
is
trying to
another
get some
one,
funds,
I forget
it would
what.
be towards trying to bypass that particular area. That's what do you guys think?
There's one little connection in there.
Man,
Did you wanna,
it's man.
did you wanna go ahead and, keep
Right,
going
man.
on
Well,
the,
let me ask this, Vanessa, as far as the technical committee, when was that meeting?
this morning?
This morning?
This
Okay, so this was discussed, and there's certain criteria that has to be met before they can classify it principal, minor, major, then we have to follow their criteria. We just can't sit here and say, hey, this is gonna be a so-and-so. But that was part of the technical committee
But we
discussion that
didn't,
was
we did
held.
We
not,
did not look at some of these roads
We
that
did
have been
not look at-
mentioned.
Well, let's just do
Anna-
this, what, can we come back and? I
Yeah,
know
but
you
one of
have
the
a tight
criteria is
deadline.
100 trucks, per day in any direction.
That's for an intermodal connector. That's not for a standard NHS road. That is a
Correct.
completely separate
Which
criteria.
one is the criteria?
Which one's the
for the
criteria
other
we should
one?
be looking at?
On what page do you have?
Can you look that up? It's more of a subjective
Oh, I have
criteria,
it.
I will let you know. There's a lot of gray area
Well, then
involved.
great, let's keep going. So,
It's
man,
not as clear cut as the intermodal
so
connector.
Make
man,
them all red.
Man
I have
Road,
a
west of,
definition.
Vanessa,
Oh, I'm
Man
sorry.
Road, west of 35?
I will just say that if you do want to add something to the NHS, it will need to, it will be subject to the performance criteria that Vanessa brought up earlier. And so adding
it
roads,
meets
it may open you up to a little additional funding eligibility, but you also have to maintain that road to the level that you would maintain an interstate or any other NHS road. So
That's
think
a-
about that
That's
when you.
the other thing that we had discussed earlier, that even if, let's say a widening, a Delmar,
Back to the
if we
technical
choose to include
Yeah.
Delmar and we do a widening, then even if we use city funds, only city funds to widen that road, we will have to maintain it and develop it up to interstate standards.
Do we
That-
have
Not to
traffic-
interstate standards, but to the federal criteria for that particular roadway design.
Do we have traffic counts to support these classifications right here, or is this
We have traffic counts for all the roads that were considered this morning.
for upgrading purposes?
All the roads that we looked at this morning, which would be the ones that, you have them in your
Okay, all right, so,
packet.
so it didn't
have-
include,
It's not all
Man
of the roads.
west of 35, it didn't include Colton west of 35. I mean, just, like,
So
what about, Killam Industrial? I mean, Killam
That was one
Industrial,
we looked at today.
and did we upgrade that one?
Killam was,
It's a principal arterial, not on the NHS, and they decided to keep it a principal arterial.
Did they say why, or was it just subjective?
Killam, we had, no, it wasn't subjective, we looked at
Apparently, the
it.
process is gonna take longer than maybe the time we've allotted. Is there any way
Send
we
it back
could?
to the technical committee.
Yeah, but she's got a deadline, you say?
I would suggest if there's other roads that you're interested in, you could give those to Vanessa, and we could look into them for you and come back with more specific,
Okay, if you can come back to
whether
this
they meet the
body here,
criteria
yeah.
or not in our estimation, and then we can take it from there.
Can we hear from our city engineer, Mr. Chavez?
Mr. Chavez, welcome.
Good afternoon, Ramon Chavez, city engineer for the record. A lot of, and much of the discussion that you're having here were some of the same points that staff was bringing up. At the same time, we could only base ourselves on this study. And looking at that, for example, right now, Killam Industrial, that was something that we discussed thoroughly. But then again, looking at the functional classification review, it only met, I'm gonna say, one of the 5 criteria. So then for that reason, that was some of the things that if the study does not suggest for it to be classified as NHS, yes, it did meet only 1 out of the 5. So then for that
And
reason.
what are those criteria again?
You wanna put them up on the?
Yeah, we can put them up here. So those were some of the reasons why we couldn't just recommend for these to be just identified as NHS or recommend to upgrade them to that. But we were definitely looking into that direction. I can guarantee you that.
Could you,
Okay,
Okay, so this is Killam. This is what we discussed this morning. These are the functional classification
yeah, we can barely
review.
see him. You wanna
Exactly.
zoom out?
My eyes
Zoom in,
is
I
up
guess.
to blurry.
yeah.
Is it page 13 or no?
Page 13, yes.
Where's the, we need a focus.
Can you see that?
No, we don't have the same page 13.
Yeah, ours is different.
But it is all in your packet. I've included
Can we
everything.
focus a little more?
This is
I
under
can
the
read
study
on my glasses.
findings. And you see here, these are the 5 criteria.
And this is for Killam Industrial Boulevard specifically.
Okay, and so what is a major activity center?
No,
A hospital, let's see.
an industrial park?
Like an international bridge? Maybe?
It differs from every community, so it's usually the top 10% of your areas that generate the most traffic.
Okay, so it's,
It could be
it's,
university or,
it's,
you know.
it's, sir, but is this taking into consideration commercial traffic? Okay, so serving a major activity center, well, I mean, if the World Trade Bridge isn't a major activity center, I don't know what is. Long distance travel, I mean, you've got long haul, short haul truckers, I mean, that's clearly long distance travel. Linking the surrounding region with the urban core, okay, maybe we can debate that. Limit access to surrounding, land uses, so the surrounding land uses, for the most part, are, so the question, is this limits
What, like-
access to surrounding land uses?
Is it controlled access facility or is there tons of driveways?
Controlled access. How many interests do you have in the Killam Industrial?
In Killam?
Yeah.
How many driveways are there?
No, from 1472 to 35.
I'm sorry, what did you ask?
Into the industrial park itself, how many interests do you have?
Oh,
Yeah, but it doesn't limit the access. It's,
The
with-
surrounding land uses, I would say it does.
Yeah, all those trucks, I mean, that,
It's internally
so
controlled.
function, so limit,
If I may, I'm just not sure that we'll be able to settle this today.
No, I agree.
no, but you can get, I just kind of, if we didn't run, and you're on point, but if we didn't kind of like go through the intellectual exercise of the fact that some of these no's are actually yeses, then we end up with a TRB that is looking through a different lens. We look through the lens of constituents and business owners, and what we know is that, that it does meet these criteria. I mean, a major activity center, I mean, I'm not arguing with you, you just happen to be standing there at the trap door as I speak, but it's close to a major activity center, and clearly it's serving, long distance travel, and there seems to be some consensus that it does limit access. So let's send this, I guess you'll wanna send this back to the TRB, and let's see if they don't just kick something back to us that's
But
already.
I think getting back to her core point was, what does it give us? What do we get if we upgrade the,
more funding,
Be
potential
careful
funding.
what you ask for though, because you could get funding
but
to
she was
build
also saying, but with more maintenance.
it. No, we got, But we're already maintaining them
We need to make
Okay,
it.
I'm just saying.
anyway, yeah.
David, do you see, I'm sorry, Mayor.
Does this have to be a direct connection to major activity centers or indirect?
Yeah, that's sort of the things that we talked about this morning, that, was this the primary access? This is how the primarily access that activity center. When we were discussing, what was it?
But can't we give ourselves the benefit of the doubt? I mean, it's
Yeah.
for a plus, as far as maintenance,
It's
we're gonna have to
completely
maintain it
up
anyway.
to this body what we decide.
Maybe if we
Yeah,
get
for
some funding
example,
going.
Cielito Lindo,
think-
it
I
says
think at
that
this-
no activity centers, we have the high school, we have the UISD transportation, and that's, they're all no, so.
David, do we have any?
I think at this point, there's so many questions up here and what we're looking at, and Vanessa, you're absolutely right. We can put every roadway on the national highway system, but to answer Mr. Galo's remark, we will have to maintain them to certain criteria to keep them on that system. I think we're lost in the transition of, what we're trying to do here. I think it might be best, Ms. Chavez, if you may want to come back during the TEP committee and explain the process of the NHS system and the benefits and gains of it. I know you're under a short deadline, which I'm not sure what your deadline is.
So we're looking to get some recommendations in the next 30 days. We're submitting to FHWA just some preliminary recommendations in June.
And adjustments are made once a year, or?
Whenever. In fact,
Okay,
we've
so I
never
think
done wholesale
At
adjustments.
this point, I think moving forward with what the technical committee suggested, we adopt and move forward, and we certainly can come back and look at the roadways that you guys are trying to present.
I
in
mean,
that direction.
I just think if we do that, we'll end up postponing it, and then we'll be here again next year. I'm like, oh yeah, we were gonna do that, and then it's just kicking cans down the road.
I just want to make sure, Councilman, that you have all the full details. It's not just a matter of, let's just put this on the list. There's certain criteria that has to have to be met by the city as far as maintaining. I want to make sure that everybody's clear on that, so we have a good, clear direction of that before we decide to put something on the system.
Fair enough. It just seems like I mean, like Killam Industrial, this is a example of other roadways perhaps that didn't get properly reviewed, in my estimation, then we need to, I suppose, task, if we can, I don't know if MPOs can do that, task the TRB with, looking through the lens of a port and not just, through this, I don't know, non-commercial activity. I don't know what lens the TRB is looking through, but it seems like it, at least your estimation, my estimation, and your estimation, and to the doctors to a certain extent, and everyone else that's been otherwise vocal, that the TRB didn't get it. They may have got some of it, but they didn't get the thrust of it. The city's a port city.
Yeah. We're not in Dallas where you just, trucks are passing through and, what makes it easier to get this truck from point A to point B is, we have the destination points and the warehouses are definitely one of them. So, but for us, I guess it's just how do we get this in the best light for us to be presented on the national scale? And more roads, I think we can answer yes to a lot of those questions. If it doesn't give us any advantage, then why make the effort? That's my question. I don't know what puts us in a better light.
Okay, so how do we
Motion
go forward?
I don't know
to
what I don't
task
know.
the TRB to reevaluate all roadways, in particular those that service the port, for purposes of NHS designation.
Connectivity, yeah.
Oh, but we are
We
passing
weren't
the
gonna
current.
reevaluate all of the roadways, right? I mean, it was just the principal arterials, correct, Susan?
Yes.
Right?
Okay,
In this
principal
case,
arterials.
it would have been Celito Lindo,
No,
Shiloh,
it's
Killam,
part of the,
260, and McPherson.
This is a possible action. So
Do you want to include all roadways?
All arterials, I'm sorry, that service these commercial areas.
So Cielito Lindo, the ones that we had that are principal arterials, that we were,
Well, yeah, no, I think it's all, because, Man Road wasn't on there, Ana Truck Route, you've got the Carlton, you've got, Killam, there are a number of other routes, that.
we had considered Killam, and.
So how do we move forward?
Say no to all those
We're
questions,
basically
or we
saying
think
the
the
same
answer
thing over
yes.
and over again. Yeah, can we approve these, the ones that they suggested and then,
Well, they want to downgrade Santa Maria, and Santa Maria's still popping and happening and rocking and rolling.
Well, that's very true. So,
Well, approve it without the downgrading of Santa Maria?
Did you wanna see the rest of the downgrades, or you don't
Yeah,
wanna?
let's, yeah, Mr. Mayor, I don't think.
Because there are only 3 more, so. The rest of them, the next one was what, the McPherson? McPherson from Loop 20,
yeah,
that
could you put it
little
up on
tiny piece.
the screen again?
If you wanna put it on the map for her, please?
Loop 20 to where?
The portion of McPherson that's from Loop 20 up into the industrial park, there's like a little stub out
Oh, yeah.
section.
Going north?
Yeah, that little section, we wanted to downgrade that from a principal arterial to a minor arterial, since it doesn't connect to another facility. That's one of the things that they make sure to tell us, that they don't want stub
Oh,
outs.
what is another facility? See, I think we're having a problem with all the
Another
definitions.
facility would be like another highway, you know,
Well, it's
Loop
Loop
20, I-35, 59, those sorts of things.
I mean, it's a dead end, so it's,
Yeah, it's not connecting to
no, but it's
another-
connecting to an industrial park.
But it's not connecting to another, I guess, another facility.
But what's Loop 20? I mean, Loop 20 seems to be a pretty major facility.
Yeah,
Again,
but where's the other side? Where's
But
the
we're a
connection of
port,
the other
you know,
facilities?
yeah, that's,
When you're a port, we begin or end.
So it's McPherson is on the NHS, it was added during MAP 21, it's a principal arterial. It needs to connect to another NHS. And so if you take it all the way past Loop 20 right there, it's no longer ending at another NHS. It ends into just another minor roadway. You would need to bring it back to end at the NHS to get rid of the stub.
well, I mean, that's like saying, well, I-35's gotta connect to another, it just dead ends right here. You know? I mean, I know you
Yeah.
That's
have
the
your other
federal
arterial,
criteria.
but I'm just saying that's exactly the same thing. It goes right into it, I don't wanna say a port, but it goes into an industrial park where
Right.
all those trucks are coming out, and again, so what is the cost or benefit? Because the city of Laredo has to maintain that street to a truck standard level, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is there any benefit that's gained by putting it on this map? I don't know, that's my question.
The only the benefit is that at some point, it may be eligible for Category 4 funding. If there's a big
Or
project
at some point, it
there,
may be,
that it would be eligible.
But-
Keeping it on the national highway system, it would be eligible.
but I'm saying it's still, to this day, it has to be maintained, again, to handle overweight trucks and everything else that are on there on the city standard.
What they're saying is that if you not rehab it, but if you widen it, if you do like an intersection project, what else did you say?
It can trigger federal requirements
Yeah, that
for
it can
design.
trigger that project, even if it's just with city funds or local funds, that we would need to go through the TechStop process, do an environmental document. It would need to
No,
meet
well, then I can see it's probably not
all the
worth it.
federal standards.
Yeah, again, Mayor, I
I'd say it's not
think
worth it.
the
Yeah.
misconception
That's
is
what I'm saying,
we're trying to get it confused
we
between
didn't
an
understand the
interstate,
definition.
between an interstate system, which is not in a
It would be
national
too
highway
cumbersome
system.
and burdensome, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, there's
maybe-
certain criteria that you have to.
Maybe
keep
for the
that
next
road
go
to
around,
keep it in a-
we could get more specific, yeah, although I think you all have an idea of what,
Well, then,
the need that we have.
Oh, no, I.
I would make a
kinda-
recommendation that we adopt what she presented today.
Yeah, I would second that.
Okay, there's a motion, a second discussion. Not heard, all those in favor say aye. All those against? Not heard, motion carries unanimously, thank you. Gee, this man, thank you again.
Am I talking to you?
The next item is, let's see, E.
I mean, we didn't even go through the other ones to be downgraded.
Yeah, we were supposed to, I guess,
Yeah.
motion also to have the other ones, the TRB
Technical
look at it.
reward?
Mhm.
Okay.
Remember that?
Yeah, there's a related motion, I guess, if you don't mind coming up. Do you want to make the motion?
Yeah, it's a motion to have the technical review board look at Ana, Santa Maria.
Do you wanna go through those standards? Or you're gonna have to go to
Well, just to look at it,
environmental? and all
evaluate
that?
it for us a little.
I mean, they're already imposed as it is, and I don't know necessarily, I mean, I haven't seen the CFR, I haven't seen the statute, no one's presented anything meaningful as to what all the requirements are. It just seems that if we have, options and available funding, then we should, not, tie our hands. I mean,
I understand, but I'm just saying, it seems like the consequences are far greater than the ability to get money.
At some point, we may get money.
Likelihood.
However, if we want to make any type of investment in Santa Maria, it's going to cost us more to do it now. That's the point.
No, I don't know about more, but it's gonna, you have to
Because
go
you have
through
to
the
go
tech
through
stop environmental
The TxDOT
process, you have to go
and
through all of
environmental
this.
process and all that.
an environmental process to improve an already existing road.
Well, she said if you wanna widen it,
But we couldn't widen Santa Maria, really, frankly,
if you did a turning lane, that's widening, you know?
yeah, okay.
So anyway,
Doesn't seem cost
it's gonna
effective.
require more evaluation. What you're saying is, let's evaluate, let's see what the negative to this would be from the standpoint of the city, incur more costs.
I mean, it would be nice to have some sort of an intelligent discussion as to what all this really mean. I think what you're saying, if what you're saying is true, and it's a selling point, I mean, Commissioner Galo is correct. I mean, do we really want to bury ourselves in more red tape under the false hope that magically, TxDOT is going to bury the city in money so that we can get the port up to speed? No, then we don't want to do that.
Ms. Chavez, is that correct? As I stated it, that projects on the national highway system, even funded only through local funds, would then be required to meet the federal requirements?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Okay. Well, for the future, maybe for the next go around, next year, will you all be coming every year for?
We're thinking of making this maybe an every 5 to 10 year cycle of review, but
We'll come back in 10 years, we'll figure it out.
See, the
No, just figure it out 10 years.
growth is not taken into
We can motion
consideration.
to bring it
Yeah.
back sooner, right?
Yeah.
We
If
can
you-
motion to have these roads looked at that we talked about,
Okay.
like to Councilmember.
think it's-
Yeah, to evaluate it and see if it's worth it.
Short-sighted, and we are in dereliction of our duties to run all of the algorithm to its logical conclusion as to what this means and doesn't mean, and what these classifications can or cannot do, and whether or not the red tape is worth the hope of funding.
We could, this is just a suggestion, do you think that someone from Federal Highways could come and maybe talk to us about this?
we can ask.
You know,
I can't promise, but we can ask.
We can pass that request along to Federal Highways, that maybe they could come and, as you say, you want some more information about what are the consequences, what does it mean? And we on the TRB had the same sort of questions. And we could ask for them to come,
Mayor,
somebody,
may I?
send a representative.
Yes, sir, go
I
ahead,
have one
Judge.
last question for you. Did you get to finish your presentation?
I think so. I think most of it. I think you heard
very
most
much.
of it.
Appreciate it.
Travis, thank you so much.
Thank you
Come
so
back in
much.
a
Is there a
week.
motion?
Mayor, if I
Appreciate
may, I'm
your
sorry.
consideration.
Could we get also the definitions of the functional classification review, all those factors, so we know what we're looking at, whether or not, because if you're gonna come back in 5 years, we're not accounting for the growth. And so maybe these arteries, if we're looking at the growth already, we need to foresee and have that vision in 5 years' growth. And also the pros and cons, as my colleagues are mentioning, so that we know. And the likelihood, how often do they fund? If it's every 10, 15 years, and it's not even worth it for us to be spending the taxpayers' dollars on something that is maybe possible.
And we have a deadline for
Okay.
when?
We have a deadline to submit recommendations in June for a first round review to FHWA, and then they'll provide us some comments. We'll coordinate with Melissa if there's any, or sorry, with Vanessa if there's any changes. And if not, then we'll just take it on to the headquarters FHWA. They're the ones that approve any changes to the NHS.
So then, it wouldn't be too much to ask to have you come back here in 30 days and present, I guess, your new analysis, and to be able to kind of map it out, line it out, whether it's worth it or not.
I can provide some information for Vanessa, certainly.
Well, let's move on that, yeah.
Let's do that, right?
Okay.
All right, so then a motion to have,
So she will not be returning.
I get it. So a motion to have MPO staff and/or TxDOT come back to the MPO commission with the pros and cons of designating different roadways outside of what was approved today for
Okay.
consideration.
It's a motion second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Martinez. Discussion? Not heard. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against? None heard. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And thank you so much for your patience.
Thank you.
But this is truly important for us.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Ms. Chavez.
Thank you. The next item is E, report by TechStot and collaboration with the city traffic on accident data and proposed lighting alternatives for Cuatro Vientos Road with discussion and possible action. I think we got a glimpse of what this is about. Now we call on Mr. McGee.
Good afternoon again. McGee for record. At the last meeting, I was asked to look into the crashes on Cuatro Vientos Road, especially concerning the accidents that were nighttime related. I put some numbers together for you. Go through it real quick. Excuse me. First, I wanted to show the crash rate for the whole road itself. And then this is from where Cuatro Vientos starts, as you come over the 359 bridge, all the way to Mangana High. Okay? So as you can see, even though the vehicles miles traveled are increasing every year, the crash rate has gone down because the total crashes are pretty stable. In other words, there's a lot more vehicles travel, but the crashes are staying pretty stable, so the crash rate goes down. For those that want to see what the crash is calculated, I'm not sure if anybody has any questions on this. I'm just putting there in case there's any questions.
Yeah, let me go back to you showed 94 at the end, 94.8. I mean, crash rate, 94 is still significant to me.
Sorry?
Well, it's just it's a relative way of looking at it. It's a way of comparing roads against other roads in the
Versus
state.
163.
Yeah, but I think the mayor's point is we adopted Vision Zero, and Vision Zero tells
Yeah, but look
us
at the miles.
that one crash is unacceptable. Every time there's a crash, we have failed as a city and as a TxDOT to design and prevent automobile accidents and deaths and injuries.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I mean, we have texting, we have phones, we have things, you have traffic slowing down and people running into,
Fair enough. DWIs, things outside of design control, yes.
Yeah,
And
responsibilities.
are you all including, I just saw another bailout. I came through the other night and they bailed out there on Loop 20. Is that considered a crash too?
Bailout?
When they take,
Chase.
drive off the road into the fence,
Okay, well, let me go through, I have all the accidents, it'll show you what all the causes are, the different types of accidents. And then
Okay, go ahead.
So you're saying, we have a lot of distracted drivers, so I don't wanna say that TxDOT caused all the
Thank you. Okay. I divided the numbers into two different sections. First of all, Cuatro Vientos opened in approximately 2012, the numbers I got. And then in December, at the end of that year, is when we closed off the intersections. We were having those fatalities, if you recall. And that was about the end of the year in 2016. So from 2015 on, we've been functioning with those, just the turnarounds. No traffic signals, no stop signs at the intersections. And that, the numbers reflect the before and after kind of, okay? So before we closed off the intersections, we had a total of 62 accidents, okay? 39 were during the day, 14 were dark, but they happened in locations where we have safety lighting, and 9 happened in locations where there wasn't safety lighting. Okay. These are the numbers of the crashes that we've had since we closed off the intersections. We've had a total of 134, 66 were in the daylight, 37 where it was dark, but there was safety lighting, and there was 31 where it was no lighting at all.
Sorry, could you go back to the previous slide?
Sure.
Okay, so this is closing off, this is with the intersections
Where we
open.
had the accidents at Cerrito Lindo, Sierra Vista,
Uh-huh.
some fatalities.
Right. So we
These
closed them
numbers
off,
were before that happened.
and the accident rate
Went up.
went up?
This is not an accident rate, this is accidents, period.
So no, I'm sorry, the number of
Crashes.
accidents went up.
14 and
You
9.
gotta remember, this is a total of 30 months, okay?
That's 2 years versus, go to the next slide.
The next one is a total of 50 months,
4
51
years.
months.
So it's about standard.
Okay,
It's a longer
No.
period of time.
But it's
Still more.
doubled.
Being
yeah.
Sorry?
the rates double, more than double.
Well, the time doubled.
No.
No, the time doesn't double.
No,
15
you
to
gotta
19?
remember when we.
Go back?
If I go back to this,
No, go back.
if you look at 2013.
I know we've got the
24
miles, but I'm saying you go
Go back to the
You
first,
got
12 to 14.
62,
So 30 months.
30 months.
so double would be 124
Right.
on 30 months. Double months would be 60 months. Now we're at 51
Right.
and 139.
Right.
So we're less than double.
It's staying constant.
But I also want to show you that initially we had 24 billion vehicle miles. We're up to almost 40
Oh.
million vehicle miles.
I understand that
We
the
have a lot
miles
more,
count,
a lot more chances for
but
crashes.
the fatalities going up also.
The fatalities does go up, but I do want to show you some statistics on those. Okay? So, any questions on this one here?
At what intersection were the fatalities?
I'll go through those.
But, and if I remember right, I think the fatalities were like single vehicle crashes.
The ones before we were closing them was, I think it was Salito Lindo. Someone was trying to make an illegal U-turn to go on one of the turnarounds. The other one was someone was coming from the middle, trying to go westbound at Salito Lindo.
Do we have some single vehicle fatalities there?
After we did this,
After.
yes. Okay. Now, these here, I'm gonna show you the next 3 slides, all relate after we close up the intersection. That relates to these
15 to
134 accidents here, okay, since January 2015. This is the manner of collision. In other words, it's what the vehicles were doing when they collided, when the crash happened. If you'll notice, the third line down, most of the accidents are happening because it's one vehicle going straight. The bulk of the accidents.
28.
Right? These are during daylight hours. Next
What does
slide.
that mean, one vehicle? So it was a single vehicle accident?
Those are the ones that's hard, you know, somebody has an accident, you ask them, why did you crash? I was on my phone, they're not gonna say that. So that's all.
But I'm saying it was a single vehicle.
Single vehicle, why they ran off the road, we may never know.
Okay.
Do we know if they were traveling north-south on Cuatro Vientos,
Yes.
or they were, so this is on Cuatro Vientos?
This is just the whole number. We didn't break it down on this north-south, southbound. But there was no large concentration on any one point. It was spread out throughout most of the. Of those. Okay, so these are the daylight accidents. Now, these are the accidents that happen. Like I said, if you see the 37, just go back to these. 66, 37, 31. That's what I'm explaining right now. These are the ones that happen at nighttime, but where there was light, safety light. Either near an intersection or near the bridges where we have safety lighting.
May I
Same
be
thing.
excused? I've got another matter to attend to, but Judge,
And I'm gonna be leaving here too.
Sure, Mr. Mayor.
Same thing here, the predominant factor is
One straight,
going straight.
one motor vehicle, one straight.
So there's daylight, nighttime. And then the last one we're looking at is where we didn't have light, and it was at night. We had a total of 31 accidents, same thing. 22 vehicles, single vehicle, going straight. Okay, so there's definitely a trend there. Okay. These are the intersections before we close them off, the total
Sorry.
accidents.
Can you go
Go
back?
back?
Yes, sir. Both going straight, what does that mean?
Which one?
This is, the manner of collision, you put angle, both going straight, and then you have angle,
It could be someone turned into the other person,
oh, so this is a two-vehicle accident?
yes.
And everything on the slide is two-vehicle
No,
accidents?
the third and fourth ones are one motor vehicle. That's where the predominant numbers are, the high numbers.
Where it says one motor vehicle going straight.
Right.
And that would be like, there's a curve, but the vehicle just misses.
No, I mean, you could have two.
It could be
T-bone.
someone fell asleep. It could be that they weren't paying attention. It could
But
be
this
they
is
just
still
ran
a
off the
single
road.
occupancy, this is still a, one person in the car?
No, it's just one car. It could be 10 people in the car, but it's just one car.
Okay, so it's one car, not colliding into another car, just one
Right.
car
Ran off the road for some reason.
ran off the road for
Or
some
hit a
reason.
curb
Those were
or
those. Bailouts.
speeding, and I'll get into the causes of it.
Oh,
This is just the manner.
okay, these are the bailouts?
No, probably it's gonna feed into those,
Okay.
Okay.
yeah.
Now, if, these are the contributing factors. In other words, these are the why did the accident happen? The other one was what type of accident did we have? These are the causes for it.
But
Okay.
going back to this question on, two vehicles both going straight, so could you have one crossing at an intersection, another one T-boning it?
That's the
Is
angle.
that considered both of them going straight?
I think that's angle, both going straight.
It could be. Like I said, we
Could-
can look at that.
Could it also be that the curve is not properly illuminated and the person kept going straight instead of following
Well,
the course of
that's
the
what I'm
road?
trying to show is that the predominant factor so far has been one vehicle going straight. It's happening in daytime, lit, unlit.
Does Cuatro Vientos have those, safety on the sides? What are they called? The,
Reflectors.
Guardrails?
not the, like the little pucks reflectors where if you veer off, you'll, you know,
Oh, the rumble strips?
those.
I don't think it does.
I think he means the delineators, the
Oh,
ones that are up in the air.
either the strips or the old fashioned ones.
Little reflector?
Yeah,
Little reflector
the
bumps
ones
in
where
the-
if you run off the road, it'll make some vibration. and
Yeah.
Either or, yeah.
I don't think it does, but as a district, we've chosen to install those on all our roads that we rehab. So the next time we rehab it, it will have it.
I think he's referring to the object markers along the edge of the road. Right?
Anything that'll grab your attention if you're veering off the road.
Yeah, well, it will be on there the next time it gets rehabbed.
I think that's
When
gonna
is
help.
that?
I don't know. I don't know what kind of shape it's in. I mean, the road's only what, 7 years old?
Is it could be something that can be added without,
It could
you
be.
know, waiting?
And then that's something, like I said, we're trying to look at the causes of it and to see what is the
What's the
real
best
solution to it.
solution?
Okay? Any other questions? So these are contributing factors, and it was what the person was doing when the crash happened. We already saw that it's accidents going one direction, one person. Failure to control speed and failure to get the right of way. These are the contributing factors before we close out the intersection.
Oh, that's before.
So more accidents in the day than at night.
I'm sorry?
More accidents in the day than at night.
Right.
There's more
traffic.
travelers.
More traffic.
Okay, and then this is, since we closed the intersections, that's the number you saw before, the 134. You can see that the outstanding number there is the failure to control speed. Though that's what the officers put down as a contributing factor.
Go back one slide.
But now we're,
Yep.
Wait, so since we closed the intersections, there's more accidents?
In total, yes. It's a longer period of time, and there's a lot more vehicles on the road.
Okay, but what's the crash rate then, right? Closing intersections versus pre-closing
That's the one
intersections?
I showed at the very beginning right here.
94.8 right now.
that's
Yeah,
not
we
percent.
used to have it
Well,
at 165, 145, then
From
15,
15
and
to
138,
17.
and it's been dropping since then.
Is there any kind of grade that goes with this number since?
Grade?
A grade.
The only grade that we would look at is to compare it to similar roads across the state.
Is there a mapping
There's no
of
level of
the,
service like, A, B, C, D.
Yeah, okay.
is there a mapping of the sites of each accident?
Yes, we did that, yes.
Okay, because where it says that failure to stop, is that at the turnarounds? Or what other stop signs do we have?
It most probably was at one of the side streets coming in.
So either Cielito or Sierra Vista or Lomas, one of those.
Right.
But I noticed on your next slide that it does flip. After you close the intersection, there is more crashes at night versus daytime.
At night, I don't think that we ever have more accidents at
Yeah.
night as opposed to
Not
daytime.
necessarily more than
That's
daylight,
what-
but more
the next-
than
right there,
before.
You got 68 at night.
68 total.
No, there's 66 in the daylight.
No, total.
Total dark?
Very bottom.
Dark lighted, so you got 68 of it.
Right here?
So you got more, yeah.
You combine 36 and 32,
Yeah.
both are during the night.
They flipped versus when you were the other way.
I'm sorry, I didn't follow.
No, he's got
Got 36 and
36 on the lighted areas. Basically, you're at the traffic signals where you have illumination. You still had 36 accidents there. You actually had more accidents in the lighted areas versus the non-lighted areas.
But I'm just saying, at nighttime, you're having more accidents.
Combined.
And I don't know if that's, again, due to mileage at night versus in the prior where you only had 60% of the daytime accidents. From the prior slide.
Between this one.
Prior slides, you have 39 and 23.
That's 23.
Right. And again, the misconception is the traffic almost doubled out there.
Yeah.
Correct.
So it's
But again, we could have a lot more traffic at night, I don't know. There's-
And there is. There is. I think we discussed this one, or any other questions on this? Like, most of the accidents are happening because people are just going too fast.
I'm confused as to how we went up with accidents. Even per capita, I know it's gone down, but when you just look at the total number, when you close the intersections, it seems to be something happening there. Is it that people are trying to cut across? Is it people trying to U-turn illegally? I know most of the accidents are going straight, but, I mean, they're not gonna tell you what's really happening, right? They're gonna say, I veered off the road, not, I was gonna try to do a turnaround here in the median, and it didn't work.
I think from,
They have to make that right-hand turn movement, right? Now, to get onto Cuatro Vientos, they have to now go, and then they have to cross over a couple lanes of traffic eventually, right?
Correct.
And then they have to make the turnaround, and then they have to merge into traffic. So what does the data say about those multiple movements versus, one hop to get across the, whatever that is, the southbound lane, and then another hop to get, to assimilate or merge into the northbound lane? I mean, how does it, in your traffic engineering?
Well, I guess, I understand what your question is, but we still, we install safety improvements on the loop, and we did that. Prior to the accidents happening, the streets just dead-ended into Cuatro Vientos. Okay. At the time, cars are going 70 miles an hour. You're coming out of Jalapa, Agua Nieve, one of those streets, you're gonna turn into traffic at 5-10 miles an hour. Cars coming down the loop at 70 miles an hour, we had skid marks everywhere, of almost near misses.
Well, that makes
After
sense.
we took money and improved those to add deceleration lanes and acceleration lanes, those types of accidents almost disappeared. Now you rely on the driver to know how to safely merge into it. But it's no different from merging on I-35. The driver still has to use some discretion. Now, if he comes out of Agua Nieve and he wants to make the U-turn at Lomas del Sur, it's up to him to determine, I can make it in that short distance, or I may need to go to the next one. In other words, because the turnaround is there, doesn't mean he's entitled to be it. If the traffic is that heavy, he may need to go down.
Do y'all keep any statistics about whether they're locals or not from that area? Because, I mentioned it before, I find it very unsettling, not being somebody that drives that road very often. It has a weird feel to it, and I can't tell you why.
Well, I drive that road a lot.
And what I'm saying, so,
And I'm.
so you're accustomed to it, just,
Yeah.
I drive 55 a lot.
I did not look up the addresses of the people involved in the crash except for the fatalities.
No, I don't.
The
I just wanted
fatalities,
to know if-
everyone was from Laredo and all from the area.
Yeah, I just wondered if it was,
Going to the college.
somebody from the north that you're going to a party or whatever,
Well,
just,
let me add on to what Commissioner's saying. So say you're coming from the north or you're not familiar with the road, you don't really know where you're turning in. There's little to no visibility of the streets that are coming
It
up.
has a
or
strange
major
feel.
intersections.
We have a lot of advanced signage. We put signage to let you know Jalapa's coming up
But
next.
if you don't,
We have
if you
signs
don't
that
know
tell
that
you-
area, you're gonna miss that sign or you're gonna miss the opportunity to turn into that sign. So hence, failure to control speed.
they're not
trying
the
to make
big
the turn.
signs.
No, they're not.
I think in general, Mr. McGee, you did an excellent job of presenting that up there, and traffic by means, I'm not a traffic engineer, but always trying to establish traffic patterns is a very tricky situation, and if I look at that situation where we had the fatalities and we eliminated the cross movements, as people get familiar with it, and to answer Commissioner Galo's comment, you're absolutely right. Driving down Loop 20 where it's heavily populated, it feels a lot different than a rural area like this that's not populated yet. The lighting and the business aren't there. But if you're driving and you're seeing an increase of the speed, my assumption would be that you've eliminated the intersection turns. People get on there and it's an open freeway. Hey, let me speed up. There's nobody coming across. So we eliminated one situation and possibly created another. But certainly what it comes down to, if the city is willing to do a continuous lighting project, we're up for that solution. Again, the funding would come directly from the city, correct?
Well, they have to participate financially.
Isn't District 1 make already a motion on that to improve lighting out there?
Say that again?
District 1 councilman, did he make a motion already? Did he have something on the agenda to provide lighting?
I think
for
he just
Cuatro
wanted
Vientos?
us to look into Robert. Just look into it, right?
Yeah, I thought it was illumination.
Yeah.
Yeah, illumination, correct.
But
At least something.
I'm still not sure, like I said, it's just the design of the road, since it's that limited access, and I don't think you have that anywhere else. You don't, as a traveler that wouldn't know that area, you don't expect those U-turns to the left. You know, you're always expecting to get off to the right, looking for that intersection, and it's just, like I say, it's kind of discombobulating the first.
And I'm guessing, but I'm sure if I looked at all the accidents happening out there, that the crashes, 90% of them are gonna be people that drive that thing every day.
Excuse me.
You know, all right.
I'm gonna echo what you said, sir. With all due respect, I understand that we're trying to eliminate problems. I know you guys are trying. But the truth is, we're having traffic that's going straight, all by themselves, that's making erroneous decisions, and it's gotta be signage of some kind.
Well, that's my point, is that we were asked to look at, to see if illumination was the solution. What I'm trying to show here is that we're having those single vehicle run off the road accidents all times of day, whether it's daylight, dark and lit, or not lit. So there are solutions. I'm not saying we're not gonna look at any solutions, but the illumination, it wouldn't be the number one solution to this. Anyways, we're gonna eliminate the least amount of accidents if they really have a brunt on those numbers.
Very good.
I do wanna finish this up if you don't mind.
You have some?
Sure. No, go ahead, I'll wait till the end.
Sorry. This is the total of the accidents we had, where it's dark not lighted. There's been 40 since we opened up. And then these are the fatal accidents we've had. We had 2 before we decided to close the turnarounds there, the intersections. And then we've had 8 since we closed up. Now, what I did want to point out is the type of accidents we're having. If you look at the single and multiple vehicle, there's only 2 of the 8 involve multiple vehicles. That means the fatalities were single vehicles. Look at the age of the driver. The oldest driver was 32. A lot of them were 20 years old, and some of them were under 20 years old. Out of the 8, 3 or 4 were involved in drinking or falling asleep at the wheel. Okay? And some of these, if you look at the time, 3:17 in the morning, 1:53 in the morning, 2:30 in the morning, almost 1 a.m., just real early in the morning. They're happening at times that people fall asleep or about drinking. Then that's what the police reports show. So with our elimination, the rumble strips, it's not gonna fix these kind of accidents.
But half of them occurred in non-lighted areas at dark.
Right.
So that's where elimination plays a role. And I think you're correct. I think it's gonna be several components coming together to be able to help the situation. And we're not gonna say it's gonna fix a problem entirely, but at least if we help out in contributing to these factors in helping these situations, you know, somebody falling asleep in the wheel, if we have those safety, you know, whatever they're called, it's gonna help. You know, we have lighting, it's gonna definitely help. So I think it's a combination of things that we have to consider as an MPO and hopefully the city as well.
And if you look at this.
One of the things I think is being overlooked here is, if you look at this slide here, the number one factor is excessive speed.
But at
Nobody's
night-
talking about
at
having more
night-
patrols out there.
No, you're right. No, we have talked about that, and we talked about that at city council quite a bit, having patrols. But at night, your failure to control speed is augmented by darkness. You cannot see what's coming up ahead. Could be a deer, could be anything. You don't see it. And so even though it's one component, I think it's a necessary component.
And like Mr. Salazar said, and we can look at that, we'll work with the city, but the city will have to participate financially in that.
What
That's
about speed control measures?
Uh,
Devices,
I think you're all,
design?
you all kind of know what we said speed limits in the state of Texas. I don't have the authority to just go out there and say, I'm gonna lower this to 40 miles an hour. I have to do a
Not
speed
necessarily
study.
lower it, but having those, you know, those radars that light up if you're speeding, something that
We
kind
put
of,
some out there. We work with the police department, we have some out
So
there.
what about those ridges, you know, that?
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
On the side of the road?
No. The rumble strips
Across
are
the-
great.
Across the road?
Across the road.
Closer to the
There's
intersections,
no
I
reason
guess.
for that.
Well, to slow people down, there's a reason for that.
It's a highway, it's counterproductive to what we're trying to do. We're trying to move people, not slow them down. The people are the ones that pick the speed limit. When we go out there and do a study, 85% of them are driving? That's what the speed limit is.
Yeah, but it's a highway that goes through, a very
Right, and as soon
urban
as-
corridor.
As soon as it starts getting more urbanized, we'll do another speed study, and without a doubt, it'll lower. But right now, it's very rural. When you're driving through there, you don't see anything on either side of you. There's no reason for you to slow down.
Unless you're gonna turn.
That's our point.
Yeah, unless you don't wanna die.
It's acceleration lanes though.
Yeah, that's what they're for, yeah, exactly.
Is it safe to say that, of course, you know, the city has to play a big part in this, and hopefully the MPO also gets involved in whatever we can? And I know TxDOT, and David, and correct me if I'm wrong, or if you agree or don't agree, I believe that there's a lot of factors that contribute to everything that we just said here. I know traffic light is the last thing we want to see when you have you know, a major, you know, loop like that. You know, you don't want to be disrupted and you want to get to where you want to go. But safety obviously plays a key here. You know, obviously, long-term the solution is going to be overpasses, you know,
Definitely.
without a doubt. But in the meantime, and if that project does go through with the realignment of Wormser and Lomas, having one traffic signal out there will actually help and reduce the speed on both ends. There's gonna be a median, there's gonna be a stopping point at one time there that could help, you know, as long, or at least to the fail to control speed, you know, part.
Yeah, because when you can't.
Now you have a break.
You can't have, Judge, if I may, you can't have it both ways. If you're saying that it's a rural road and that's why it's gonna be faster, you can also make that counter argument that says, because it's a rural road, there's no big deal putting a stoplight out there.
Actually, there is. Can you picture the intersection of Mangana High and US 83? A while back, we had a couple of fatalities out there,
Correct.
and the city wanted to put a traffic signal out there.
Well, you put the barriers, right?
We made it so you can only turn left coming
It
out of there.
helped.
Good. I was very adamant about not putting a traffic signal out there because it's a location where you don't expect a traffic signal. Can you imagine you stopping at a red light, someone's coming down the road, and we've had them happen before. An 18-wheeler looking at his phone, looking at his computer, log in, comes right into the back of you. It's all about driver expectation. Same thing on the loop. Right now, I drive in the morning sometimes 65, I get past like I'm standing still, 75, 80 miles an hour. So can you imagine that? We stop people at an intersection, somebody that's not paying attention, everyone's got cell phones these days, they're gonna plow into somebody at 85 miles an hour.
It's not necessarily just in those rural areas. I mean, a prime example is a traffic light down here at the airport.
Right.
I mean, 5 o'clock rush hour traffic, that backs up around the bridge. You come over the bridge and then smack, you're right in the middle of a stop sign.
It's backing up to our office in the morning.
That, you know, was put in to eliminate several instances that happened there, and believe it or not, we have several accidents there after we put the traffic signal in there.
You wanna do the turnaround right there at the
But,
airport.
Mr. Gonzalez, I mean, we will certainly look at that. Once is in there, we will certainly evaluate the traffic signal, if it's gonna warrant it or not. It'll have to go through the warrant study, and we're not gonna eliminate that, and we'll certainly look at any other issues that we can do out there, whether it's signing, rumble strips, illumination. We will be looking at that, but I guess the basis of the, presentation of Mr. McGee was that necessarily the continuous lighting that the city is willing to afford may not be the
Correct.
one true.
And I mean, I completely get you, you know,
Yeah.
more patrol, obviously,
Yeah,
is gonna
the
help.
message I want to leave today is not that I'm saying we don't do anything. There's accidents happening, obviously we want to do something about it. We just need to look to see where the best bang for our buck is, or which ones we do first.
Mr.
And we
McGee?
can look at the rumble strips, people running the road, let's stop people running the road.
One thing at the end.
And if illumination is what the city wants to do and they want to participate financially, we can look at that.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. McGee. Appreciate it. I would like to see if we could finish this meeting within 15 minutes from now.
I agree.
We have a wake that we need to go to, so, Sheriff's father. So the next item will be, what is it, discussion of possible action to the River Road project, is that correct, Ms. Guerra?
I'm sorry,
I'm just trying to catch up the notes with the mayor.
Did we do on F,
No,
report by
we were on
TxDOT?
F, sir, report TxDOT on proposed solutions, cost estimates, and funding sources.
Okay, can we have a report? And can it be short and sweet, please? Report?
See, Danny, again.
It's proposed solutions, cost estimates, and funding sources related to the Mines Road bike tract, pedestrian and bicycle facilities to safely cross both Loop 20 at intersection of Del Mar and intersection of I-35 Del Mar.
Colleagues, if we could have our questions to the very end, I would appreciate it. Mr. McGee, you may proceed.
First of all, you're gonna have to excuse me because I was just asked to look at the traffic numbers. I didn't realize we were supposed to put together.
Perfect, no worries. Thank you very much, sir.
We'll bring it
We'll
back.
bring it back.
All right.
G, discussion of possible action on the River Road project. Anybody have anything on that? Great, wonderful. Well, we'll bring that back too. H, discussion of possible action on the Char Ruthinger Road.
I have
Mr.
no,
Cuellar.
I have no update.
Good afternoon, Guillermo Cuellar, Assistant County Engineer. As just a follow-up, on April the 10th, we had a stakeholders meeting with the city, the county, representatives of the landowners regarding the Ruthinger project. We determined a preferred alignment for the roadway on that area. And we also did right of entry forms to get environmentalists to go do work inside their property. So basically, that's what we did, and that's where we are so far in that project.
What's the ETA?
Hopefully, by the end of this year, we'll have the majority of the work done. I'm not too sure about the environmental. That may take a little bit longer. It just depends on when it's submitted and when the people that review it finish it off. So
Very good.
it could be from a year to a year and a half at most, I believe.
All right.
That's when we get started?
That
Pre-construction?
will be
Yeah,
when we
pre-construction.
complete the environmental and schematic on the Ruthinger portion, and then we'll start incorporating the city portions into that project as well.
Correct. No. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Item 5, reports and presentations, no action required. A, status report by TxDOT on the outer loop alignment study. Mr. Rodriguez?
Roberto Rodriguez with TxDOT. Good afternoon. On the outer loop, we recently had a meeting with the consultant, Jacobs. We are developing the design criteria, which pretty much have it, we're 4-lane divided, and then eventually we'll bring it up to a freeway. We're gonna have a utility workshop. We're contacting the utility companies along the proposed area, see what kind of updated information they have on their existing utilities. We can work around them. There's also meetings gonna be scheduled with KCS, with the railroad company, so that we can look at their plans and what is their proposed development and for around the outer loop. And we're gonna have, we're working right now, they started developing the constraints map of the entire corridor, see what kind of constraints we have within the project.
Very good. I'm going to go ahead and open it up for status report by TxDOT on ongoing projects.
All right? Mr. Carlos Rodriguez will give some. Oops.
Good afternoon, Carlos Rodriguez for the record.
Mr. Rodriguez, how are you?
I'm doing all right. I know we shortened time. The project itself is, they're moving forward. The Kansas City, the one next to the office, is still, it's 96% complete. We're having issues with the illumination, moving forward with the illumination. And that will bring closure to it. We're looking at more of a June 2019. The next one I want to talk about is the SCR project. It's on 35 and Loop 20. That is moving forward very fast, 70% complete right now. We're working on basically placing concrete panels, bridge work, and also doing bridge deck placement and concrete pavement. All of that is working simultaneously, and we're still on target, God willing, for December of this year. Another one I want to talk to you about briefly is 1472. We basically, I know we're already in April. We've been having, well, different weather patterns, should one say, which is not lending itself to seal coat, but we're having, the plans are to get it completed, do the seal coat, the striping, and get it completed by May of this year. And that's a 2.9 investment, 2.9 million. Another one I want to talk about is 359 project. The 359 project is a 4.8 miles from Loop 20 east all the way up to the county line. That one, we basically gotten to the Border Patrol checkpoint and beyond, and we should be making the turn back on doing the spot-based repairs. Once we complete all the spot-based repairs and get back to the 4.8 miles, then we'll start the overlay. The investment on this one is 28 million. And this one also has a side project to it on US 83, but later on, when we get closer to US 83, we'll offer you more details on that. One that I wanted to talk to you about is US 83, is a reconstruction. The US 83, if you know where 44 is at and 83, like about 3.4 miles south of that, just before getting to the checkpoint. From there all the way to the county line, reconstruction. Anderson Columbia has got that project. We are, the project, they're the low bidders, 49 million, and we're making some changes to try to help expedite it before we start with the project. With that, in a nutshell, that's the summary of the projects. If you have any questions, I can entertain them.
No, sir, we are good. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
See anybody from the-
Status report on regional, then the RMA?
The RMA couldn't be with us today. They asked that I read out their report. They report that on Vallecillo Road project, that after coordination with TxDOT Debt Finance Department, the RMA is moving forward with submitting the draft interlocal agreement to the city of Laredo. The RMA will also be submitting the draft agreement to the Kiln Company. Both draft agreements are proposed to be released in the next 2 weeks. Meantime, the RMA will work with their GC to authorize a work authorization for the pass-through finance application. On Los Presidentes, or from Cuatro Vientos to Concord Hills, they report that they're distributing the interlocal agreement to the city of Laredo on 416. Killam Industrial Boulevard turn lanes, again distributing an interlocal agreement to the city of Laredo also on 416, April 16th. North Laredo Webb County Transportation Planning Study. The advanced funding agreement is executed. The FHWA funding authorization letter has been received. TxDOT to provide a DBE goal for the RMA to meet and anticipate execution of the work authorization in the next 2 weeks. Finally, for the World Trade Bridge traffic study, they distributed the draft scope of work to the interim city managers, TxDOT, and the City of Laredo consultants for the World Trade Bridge expansion project. And that's all they report.
Very good, thank you. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Any opposed? Didn't think so. Motion carries.